history. I'm your host, Phil S. Dixon, and I'm coming to you with lots of baseball information that occurred on December the 25th, 26th. Let me make that 26th. So yesterday was 25th. We had a wonderful program. In case you missed it, you might want to go back and look at it. However, today edition is the December 26th edition. And so we're going to talk about some historic facts that happened in black baseball throughout the ages. So if you're new to this broadcast, you like what I'm doing, go ahead and subscribe. And we will start rolling here probably about maybe about minute 15. And we try to keep it to about 20 minutes in case you want to stay the entire route. We have a good time here. So we love baseball. And if you're joining me from anywhere, you're picking up this broadcast, go ahead and hit the, actually tell me where you're listening from. It's a good chance I've been there and have presented there or know something about that community in my 45 plus years of being a baseball historian. Okay, let's get busy and let's go right immediately into these facts, okay? So we're going to go to Friday, December the 26th, 1919. In a game played for the Negro Basketball Championship of the World, a packed house at Pittsburgh's Labor Temple saw the Pittsburgh's Leone team, led by Cum Posey, defeat the St. Christopher Club of New York by a 40-27 score. And Cum Posey dropped in 3 baskets from the field for a total of 6 points, and then scored another 8 points at the free throw line. George File of St. Christopher finished with 6 points from the field and 11 points from the charity stripe. So Fast Jenkins also added 8 points in his team's losing effort. So those are 3 important names that I feel are important that relate to the African American baseball experience. And of course, Cum Posey, I mentioned many times, he is one of the only members in sports who is a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, and also the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. So that's a unique distinction. Also, we have Fast Jenkins and both George File too. They're both enshrined into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame because of their connection later on with the New York Renaissance team, the famous New York Wrens. So, okay, so just want to let you know that happened on this date, December 26, 1919. Let's go to another one. December the 26th, 1920. The Lincoln Giants beat Bill Goodman's Dias Ovals All-Stars, a 14-0 at Los Angeles at Carroll Park. Okay, members of the Giants pelted Bale of the All-Stars, that was their pitcher, for 14 hits in Winter League Baseball action. Jess Hubbard tossed a 5-hitter, and Jules Thomas went 3 for 4 and scored a pair of runs, and Spotwood Poles stole 3 bases. Okay, I don't know how much you know about any of those people, but let me just mention Jess Hubbard was a famous pitcher from the Eastern Color League, and a good friend of Wilber Rogan's too. And the reason I know that because I've seen Willie Rogan's telephone book when he passed away, and I have a copy of it, and I can see certain people's names and telephone numbers in that book. And these are people that he kept up with through the end of his life, good friends of his. And then also Spotwood Poles, a World War I veteran. He was gassed in World War I, received a Purple Heart also. And he was a great player before World War I, not as great after World War I, but he is certainly somebody you want to remember, Spot Poles. And Jules Thomas played for the Brooklyn Royal Giants, another great player that does not get much recognition. It's a name that's rarely mentioned. And so I like to just keep these names alive so you know who they are. So somebody says, hello, if you're in here watching, let me know where you're watching from, okay? I'd love to tell you something about your baseball town and the African-American baseball experience. Okay, let's go to another fact. December 26th, 1920, still in 1920. Bob Fagan's 3 hits and a pair of runs scored, along with Wilber Bullet Rogan's pitching, helped the Los Angeles White Sox to a 4-3 victory over San Pedro in the California Winter League action. Carl Sayers and Nick Altrock figured in the decision for the losing team. Okay, so now you probably know some of these names as well. Okay, let me go back. We mentioned Bob Fagan. Bob Fagan and Wilber Bullet Rogan both played baseball in the military. I know Rogan was with the 24th and 25th Infantry, and so Fagan was with the 25th Infantry. And so after baseball, they're still playing together. And Fagan ended up, I know he played for the Kansas City Monarchs for a while. I think he played for another team in the Negro National League. Of course, Rogan ends up in Cooperstown. He's one of the greatest all-around baseball players that ever lived. So somebody's asking here, no one's telling me where you're from. I'm more interested in that than anything. I know you got some questions you want to say about some stuff, but people don't know you. So I see somebody saying their birthday tomorrow. Well, happy birthday. But, if I knew you, I'd, bake you a cake. How about that? So anyway, let's keep it rolling with the sports here. All right. So, yeah. And then Nick Altrock, he was kind of like a baseball clown. And he was famous for that. And you can find pictures of him pretty much entertaining baseball fans on the funny side of baseball. But at one time, he was a pretty serious baseball player. So I just want to mention that. Okay, let's keep it going here. All right, so we have December 26, 1953. We're going to jump way ahead. The Milwaukee Braves trade 1950 National League Rookie of the Year, switch hitting, Sam Jethroe, and 5 players. Okay, and I'm just going to give you their last names. LaSalle, Gordon, Radin, Surkout, and Waters, plus $100,000 to the National League Pirates for one man, Danny O'Connell, who batted .279 and led 279 in 146 games, and came to bat 514 times. That had to be one of the worst trades ever, right there, because I don't think that O'Connell did much for the Braves. And so Sam Jethroe, and here's something interesting. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes I'm not so happy with the way that integration was handled. They were buying African-American players from teams in the Negro Leagues for $5,000, $10,000. And some of the people were happy to get it. They were really happy to get it. $5,000, $10,000 for people like Larry Doby and Monty Irvin and Satchel Paige. They got some of these great stars. And this is, we're talking about teams in the American National League for bargain basement prices. And then in just a few years, you see, they got this guy, Sam Jethroe. They're selling him with 5 players and $100,000. So just imagine, they saw more value in Sam Jethroe than the people in the Negro National League. And so just figure what's going on here. And boy, I think that we need to have more conversations about that. And especially some of these owners who were selling these players for bargain basement prices, putting the Negro Leagues out of business. I think it would make a wonderful conversation to talk about that. So that is a little bit here. So if you're joining me here, we've got a lot of people joining. Somebody says joining from the U.S. So what about Mickey Mantle? Somebody always want to talk about Mickey Mantle. Now, you know what? Mickey Mantle's a great player. However, I'm going to tell you about some people that were Mickey Mantles that you never heard of. And that's my job here, to let you know that. So if you've never heard of, like we had just mentioned, Jules Thomas, you might want to learn something about Jules Thomas, because he was pretty good. And you might want to learn a little bit about Wilber Bullet Rogan. He was also great. And these guys were great before Mickey Mantle ever showed up. You might say they paved the way for Mickey Mantle. All right. So, okay, let's go to another one. Let's go to December 26, 1954. Hall of Fame shortstop, 15-time All-Star, 13-time winner of a Golden Glove, Osborne Earl Smith, a.k.a. Ozzie Smith, is born in Mobile, Alabama. He had a lifetime batting percentage of .262 in 2,573 games. Now, the interesting thing about him is not so much his batting average, but his defense. He was just a superb fielder. That is Ozzie Smith. I had a chance to meet him on many occasions. An interesting thing, in the 1985 World Series, the Kansas City Royals played the St. Louis Cardinals. And for I think it was three home games that we played in Kansas City, I sat next to Ozzie Smith's wife, and I had a chance to interview her. She was quite the enthusiastic yelling for the Cardinals. I remember that very well. I even took some pictures of her, and he was there. She was there with Ozzie Smith's son, and I sat close to the area where they had the St. Louis wives. I remember Joaquin Andujar's wife was also sitting next to her. So, yeah, that's a little memory I have of Ozzie Smith, as well as meeting Ozzie Smith many times through the years. Here at the Negro National League, or the Negro Baseball League Museum in Kansas City, which I'm a co-founder, by the way. I don't know if you know that. So not only am I the author, but I'm a co-founder of the museum as well. So so somebody wants to talk about Mickey Mantle. Let me tell you this, guys. I specialize in the Negro Leagues, right? Mickey Mantle, of course, is not African American, but there are lots of places you can go and talk about these people if you want to. But in my case, guys, I'm trying to bring out history. I'm not trying to do it, I am doing it. History of people that maybe you would like to know about if you're a true baseball fan. And a true baseball fan just enjoys the game at all levels and watching great athletes, right? So, baseball has a habit of picking just a certain people and talking about them like they're the only people that exist. But no one or two people, three people make a team of nine players. So every man on that field has something to contribute. And that's the kind of theme that I use in my talking. All right. So we're going to keep on going, guys. If you like what I'm doing here, go ahead and subscribe. You want to hear about Mickey Mantle? You don't have to subscribe because, well, maybe this is not the place for you. All right, let's keep it going. So we just finished up with Ozzie Smith. Maybe you've got an Ozzie Smith story. I don't know. He's been around for a long time and makes a lot of appearances, okay? So we're going to go one more, and then I'm going to call it quits for tonight. I do want to thank everybody for joining. I usually try to get in and out within 15 to 20 minutes. So it looks like we're on target tonight. And the person I want to end up with is somebody who was born December 26, 1893. William Augustus Greenlee is born in Myron, North Carolina. And that was the county seat of McDowell County. Population at that time, about 800 people. And a lot of people think well of Greenlee. Randy Dixon, writing in his column, The Sports Bugle, for the Pittsburgh Crawfords, this is what he noted. He said, "Once in 3 generations is such a man born of woman." Man, that's saying a lot. Have you ever heard of Gus Greenlee? Okay, now how about this? His father worked locally as a masonry. He worked in the masonry business, and his mother was the daughter of a well-known white man. And his name was George Washington Manley. That was his name. And an African American woman. Okay, so that was his mother. All right, and Gus's mother. Let's see, her name was Julia Manley Greenlee, and she was born in 1868. A lot of stuff going on interracially in some of these small towns. They're not telling us about this history. So, but you're going to learn a little bit of it here if you stick with me. All right. So that was in Myron, North Carolina, Marion, North Carolina. And let me see what I want to add in here. Okay. Now, although Gus only lives to be 58 years, he made an impact in those 58 years. At age 23, 1916, he arrived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he went immediately into business and ended up being the numbers boss. And that's you watch what the lottery is today with these big bucks out here. Well, those were really popular in black communities. Some places it was called the lottery, and other places it was called policy. But he was the big guy in Pittsburgh, and through that, he began to funnel his money into baseball. So And at age 39 in 1931, he became owner of the Pittsburgh Crawfords. And he immediately began building his own professional baseball field. And how about this? At a value of $100,000. And that field opened in 1932. And so that was Gus Greenlee and the Pittsburgh Crawfords. And also, how about this? In 1933, at age 41, he led to the formation of the second Negro National League. And that is the league, the first formation was in 1920. Of course, that started with Andrew Rube Foster. And you'll see people selling memorabilia from the first Negro National League. What you don't see is a lot of memorabilia, say, talking about the second Negro National League, because the first one went out of business in 1931. And then so Gus Greenlee organized a new Negro National League in the East. The first one was in the West. And those had teams like Dayton, the Dayton Marcos, the Chicago American Giants, the Chicago Giants, Kansas City Monarchs, Indianapolis. So when Greenlee organized his Negro National League in the East, it was mostly Eastern teams. And so there's a difference there. And I know we don't talk about that difference too often, but I just want to make you aware of that. And the biggest question I have is Gus Greenlee was a very monumental figure in the Negro Leagues. Is as good as anybody as far as some of the things he actually helped to promote in the league and to elevate the league, right? But he is not in the Hall of Fame. And I wish somebody could tell me legitimately why he is in the Hall of Fame, why he is not in the Hall of Fame, and why some other people are, mainly Effa Manley. So what did Effa Manley do that Gus Greenlee did not, that warrant that she get in and he did not? And I would love for somebody to answer that question. I have my own personal feelings about it, but I don't want to share them here. But I do feel like Gus Greenlee should be in Cooperstown for his contributions to baseball. All right, so that kind of does it for me here. We're about 17 minutes in, and let me see if there's anybody here, any comments that I need. Did anybody tell me where you were, where you live? Somebody said USA. Yeah, USA has 50 states. That's a big place. Of course, I have spoken in the USA. So somebody said Philadelphia. Yeah, I hope to be in Philadelphia next year for the All-Star game. And I do have a book that I'm actually working on an updated version of. It's the 1905 Philadelphia Giants, who I think was one of the greatest teams at the turn of the century, especially the 1905 team. I think that they could have beat the Philadelphia Athletics in 1905. But of course, they did not play. They did play in 1906, and the Philadelphia Giants were not as strong in 06 as they were in 05. So, but how about this one? The Philadelphia Giants, 1905, scored 1,000 runs. They were the first modern day team to score 1,000 runs in a season. And they did this before the National American League, who didn't score 1,000 runs. I think it was the New York Yankees, and it was in early 1930s. So anyway, guys, that does it for me. I'm going to kind of conclude my broadcast this evening. If you like what I'm doing, come on and join me and subscribe. We've been at this for about 5 months now. So I'll give you this information. And of course, today was the December 26th, 2025 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. And I do want to thank you for joining. And if you pick the broadcast up later, guys, I just encourage you to subscribe and stay with me. And we're going to have a lot of fun here. And as you notice, guys, after 46 years, there are a lot of people out there who can tell stories about the Negro Leagues. It's a lot, all right? But when it comes down to having interviewed people and have actually gone to some of these places, I think about Gus Greenlee there owning the Greeley bar there in Hill District. I've been there. And of course, I mentioned about my connection with I. Smith. Hey, talk to Sam Jethroe, right? Hey, you know what? Let me give you one more, because this one kind of sticks out too. I'll give you one more, all right? Okay, we're going to jump in and squeeze this one in. December 26, 1948. Carol Christopher Chambliss, aka Chris, is born in Dayton, Ohio. Been there, and presented there. And I remember going there. Many Elwood Parsons, a great promoter, by the way. Uh, and he was in the majors from 1971 to 1988 with the Indians, down the Guardians, the Yankees, and the Braves. And he achieved a lifetime 279 batting average, and a little bit better than Ozzie Smith's average. But one thing I remember about Chambliss was hitting a home run against the Kansas City Royals. Man, that crushed us in the playoffs. I remember that very well. And so I didn't want to get out of here tonight without mentioning Chris Chambliss. So anyway, guys, thank you. That's been my broadcast for tonight. And I'm talking to you from Kansas City. So feel free to come back and join again. And somebody said, how am I doing? I am doing great. And this has been a great holiday season. And here in Kansas City, we've got one more day. Believe it or not, 60-degree weather. Certainly unseasonable here. So I've been able to get out and walk. And hey, you can actually get out. You could have played a baseball game in this weather. So anyway, guys, you have a nice evening. And I look forward to joining you soon with another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. And this is Phil Dixon's edition. All right. All right, then. Thank you, guys. And I will see you real soon. Bye.